Welcome to the Hello FirstName podcast. The Hello FirstName podcast revolves around the term personalization and is brought to you by marketing author Rasmus Holy, founder of Omnichannel Institute and Chief Experience Officer at the marketing automation software company Agilic. The podcast is based on the book Hello FirstName. Each episode is based in turn on a chapter from the book, followed by a discussion of the very same chapter with an expert marketing practitioner in the following episode. As always, you can buy the book on Amazon or other bookstores. You can also choose to listen to it all for free on your favorite podcast service. You're also very welcome to download the abstract of the book for free, and all models, of course, are able to download. All downloads are sponsored by Agilic. I'll make sure to put a link to everything in the show notes. But you can always connect on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to reply and help out. Hello, and welcome to the Hello FirstName podcast. Today we'll be discussing chapter 12 from the book Hello FirstName, namely Content Part 2, Content Feeds, together with Pier Luigi Spagna, EMEA VP of Customer Retention and Engagement at Warner Bros. Discovery. Pier, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Pier, you were part of actually the creation process of the book, and you're actually the protagonist of the sort of leading narrative in chapter 12. But a year has passed since then, and also looking at your career, I can see that you've been working at Warner Bros. Discovery for some years now, also some years before they merged, and before that even you were head of CRM at Deliveroo in London. But maybe in your own words, can you tell us a bit about how you got to where you are?
It's a long story. I'm going to try to make it short, basically. But it's been now more than 10 years I've been working in this kind of field. I've been working CRM on different extent, of course. I started as an intern, and now I'm leading a big pan-European team. The thing that I really like that got me there is, first of all, a bit of luck, of course, as always. But I have always kind of been passionate about how to make customers' life easier when navigating different type of e-commerce. I've been working on different industry. I started with travel. I ended up in gaming for a while. Then, as you said, the food industry with Deliveroo, and now I'm in the media entertainment. It's been a while now. It's been more than 6 years. And I think that the common thing that's been always there has been about how there's so much choice in media. Like, started with travel, like booking holidays. There's a lot of choice. Same thing. Then imagine a Deliveroo. It's like when we started, like people didn't even know what it was, how to navigate the website, the app back then. And now media entertainment is just like, there's so much out there. And the role that I've had so far, it's always been kind of, all right, we need to get people's life easier when navigating and purchasing or just consuming our products. How do we do that? And then, of course, different ways. There's only so much that my team can do. And that's the part that I love the most. It's not just what my team does, but how do we influence the rest of the companies, different teams to kind of support that kind of mission that we have to, again, makes people's life easier and get them to stick around for longer, basically.
That's the issue, right?
That's the issue every day.
So many different options that consumers could take. There's so many, in your case, pieces of media they could choose to consume. There's so many other ways they could try and be entertained and have fun. So really, making sure that people can easily navigate.
And there is only so much time that people have to dedicate to you, because I think it's a problem that everybody has. I do have that issue when I log in on Netflix or whether it's HBO Max or whatever it is. I spend a good 20-25 minutes browsing, trying to understand what am I going to watch, and then the time is always shorter and shorter when I can actually watch something. So our job is really get people to get straight to what they would love to watch or what we think they're going to like. So it's a very important piece of work, I would say.
And I learned that you recently became a father.
I did. So
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Can tell you from experience that time will not more time from that. More
That's
love,
very true.
But time, not so much. But
that's very true. That is very true. But yeah, here we are.
My mother keeps telling me that someday, before I know it, suddenly I will have enough time on a Sunday just for myself again. But
people keep telling me that. I'm waiting for that moment, to be fair. But so far, time hasn't been a commodity that I have at the moment. But yeah, I know it's gonna go faster than we think. So I'm going to enjoy every moment.
Coming back to Warner Bros. Discovery, I think at least I struggled a bit with finding out how the connection is between Warner Bros. Discovery and HBO. Even can you put a few words to that for the audience?
I'm going to try to put it like in a very simple way. Imagine that we had two massive entertainment companies that where their missions and their kind of proposition was very different. Imagine the content that Warner Brothers had, specifically if you look at the HBO Max world, so the digital world, is a very kind of leaning towards kind of big title movies or series that really take your attention. Imagine Game of Thrones, all right? To watch, if you want to watch Game of Thrones, you really got to focus, sit down, watch it, follow every single episode, so it really takes your attention. And on the other side, you had Discovery, looking at Discovery Plus, which is a digital platform. You have very more lean back content, so kind of realities, factuals, kind of documentaries that people do not need to kind of really sit down and focus. It's something that can even go in the background, or you can watch like with your family. It's not really, it's not very time consuming. So at some point, the opportunity there was, okay, what if we put this together? Because I don't want to watch an episode of Game of Thrones every night. You know, maybe tonight I'm having dinner and I'm just kind of, I want to watch something easy that just relaxes my brain. Maybe I want to watch something about X on the beach, like a simple piece of content. So the two together, we believe, the company believes, the stakeholder, the shareholders believe, can be really successful to kind of cover all the different moments of someone that wants to enjoy content, basically.
Different types of entertainment and watching / maybe screening a bit, or having things in the background, something that's very consuming of your you need to be very aware of, and something that can be more in the background. Okay.
Also, that is 100% correct.
And there's something about sports as well, right? Am I mistaken? Or
absolutely not. So Discovery Plus in EMEA has been always been considered was the home of the Olympics. So we had like a different countries, different type of sports rights. That is a completely different game, if you can only imagine. And now all of a sudden this is also put in there, so that covers another aspect of consumers' life, because people might be interested in watching the Australian Open. And now all of a sudden, if you think that you have all of this together, also covering sports, is amazing. For us specifically, for the retention team, sport has always been a struggle, because normally you come in to watch the sport event. I'm going to stick to the Australian Open example because an Italian just won the Australian Open, so I want to keep reiterating that. So imagine people who can come in, the Australian Open lasts for a couple of weeks, and then people will just leave. While now, all of a sudden, we have a bunch of additional content for people to stick around until the next tennis event, which is going to be in May, Roland Garros. So it really fits very well all together, or at least that's what we think. We hope we're going to see the results moving forward.
But, huge opportunity there, and actually in terms of and retention that you're ahead of, mixing those two together. So actually, I saw one of your colleagues, Fredrik Salcedo. I saw him presenting at a conference in September last year, where he was presenting a local version, actually one of the best examples of personalization I've ever seen, where they were ending the sports league, the football league was ending, and then they were making this play, a personalized video for everybody, showing them what would their team for the winter break look like. And the team was made up of different series and stuff that you could watch.
I'm very familiar with the example. We worked together on that with Frederick. We were very close together, if you can imagine. That was a great piece of work that they put together, to be fair. And that kind of says a lot about how technology can really help you, because that's all made of kind of algorithm and things. So it's great. Yeah, it is great. Yeah.
I'll put a link to it in the show notes. I think Frederick has some kind of link where he's talking about it. It completely blew my mind. It's one of the best examples of personalization.
Nice. I'm glad that you like it.
All right. So in the book Hello FirstName, I distinguish between the authors and I distinguish between three types of personalization. There's sort of the campaign style personalization, where you're very much doing different variants of the message depending on the segments that you are communicating to. Then there's the marketing automation, which is very much a matter of outbound communication and nudging people to engage or re-engage or whatever. And then there's the on-site / in-app personalization, where you're basically more working with content feeds that the marketer
Correct.
doesn't necessarily produce, but that would make it more fun and engaging to keep watching or to buy a certain product or whatever. So which types of personalization are you using at Warner Bros. Discovery, or which of them do you use the most, maybe?
We use all of the above, of course, and to different extent. It's a little bit easier for us. So the first two, because we personally own them. So the communication that we send to customers, we normally look at different segments, different interests, so we try to tailor make them specifically for those clusters. Those automation that are kind of more based, rather than based on what piece of content we have, it's more based on how customers behave. So imagine you finish watching an episode of something, and then there's a new episode available. Automatically, we trigger a communication telling you, "Hey, there's a new episode available. You might want to watch." And those we own personally. So the retention team manage those, and we kind of look at the data and we react to that.
And that's email, that's notifications,
Email, push notifications, in-app banners. Sometimes we're starting to explore more. It started a while ago. We're now getting into the scaling phase. Paid media retargeting, so kind of investing some budget to retarget customers outside of our environment, which is typically email, push, and in-app. So we try to kind of show you dedicated messages while you're browsing Instagram, Facebook, you name it.
Yeah,
Meta,
exactly.
sorry. So we do use that quite a lot as a team. We manage that, but that can go only to a certain extent, because then once you've done this, so you manage to get customers' attention outside of your environment, then at some point they land on the homepage and you need to replicate that. And that, of course, is a different thing. We work together, is the merchandising thing. We work together, we work very closely together with them, but that's a different piece of thing, because, okay, we got your attention with one piece of content. We need to make sure that that is replicated on the website. That experience is still happening there. And then you have a bunch of new opportunities, because then all of a sudden, once you land there, you might have my list, you are continue watching, or like things that you haven't really saved in your list, but you show some interest, or those personalized recommendations that we built together. So a raid that is called for you, or because you watch this, now you can download this. So all of this goes very much together. The struggle there is, how do you align what you do as a retention team, CRM team, however you want to call it, and what the merchandising team does on the website. So these two teams really need to be one unit working together, having similar KPIs, which is eventually increasing engagement.
You explain what does a merchandising team do?
They own all of those rails. So whenever you log into whatever that is, HBO Max, Discovery Plus, Netflix, Amazon Video, whatever, you name it, all of those rails that you see there, they basically manage
the different
the different rows, exactly, with the different tiles. They are managed by them. And the level of personalization there can go to extent that we can even possibly imagine. I was looking at a case study from Netflix, I think, where even the image that you see on a specific tile could be different between what I see and what you see, because I've been watching movies from this specific actor, while you've been watching movie with a specific genre. So eventually the recommendation is the same, but I look at the actor on that little image. You might be looking at a big scene, an action scene, whatever it is. So it goes very far.
Way of presenting the same piece of content is different depending on actually the reason that we believe this person is watching it or should
might
be
interested in that. Absolutely, yes, that's correct.
All right. So I think, is it fair to say, if I can conclude on what you say, that working with on-site personalization or in-app personalization is very much something that the merchandising team is doing, and you are working very closely together with them, but also with the outbound and the campaigns?
That's absolutely correct. And this is kind of a trend now, because if you think about now specifically our world, so the entertainment world, there's been so many talks about, there are so many different options, so many different websites, companies that offer different type of entertainment. So all of a sudden, you're really fighting to retain those customers, because it's very easy to unsubscribe and jump from a product to another. So now the focus is shifting very much more towards retention than acquisition. We're still acquiring subs, of course, but now the goal is, how do we increase that lifetime value? How do we get people to stick around for longer? How do we get people to stick around after that favorite show is over? So now all of these teams before churn, retention, engagement was very much a KPI that my team would have. Now it's a company KPI. We really need to work all together. So the merchandising team needs to be involved in that. And there are many other teams, MarTech, the product team, people that build the website. We all kind of figuring out how to really work together to make the experience better and get people to stick around follow.
One of my old points. So the first book I did in 2019, which Make It All About Me, it's about omnichannel marketing, and within that, I think me and Colin Shearer, my co-author, we arrived at the conclusion that if you want to be really customer centric, you need to also look into customer centric measures. And I would say customer retention and customer churn is indeed a customer centric measure that you can be aiming at no matter which department that you're in, and that actually fosters collaboration about the most important business terms.
Absolutely correct.
Great. All right. So the chapter, I mean, we're already deep into discussing this, so we might skip a few of the planet questions. So I normally say that as opposed to messages, which is one type of content, the content feed consists of content that the marketer doesn't create, but feeds from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it may be obvious, and you have the shows and the episodes, but which content types do you work with in feeds?
So imagine that once again, different content, different type of behaviors. So we have the database is huge. So you got movies, you got series, you got documentaries. As you said before, we now got sport events that fit into this. How do we get all of it together? And it's a mix and match, of course, because every single experience of a different customer experience is going to be different. So we might want to have a good balance between series, movies. When there are big sport events, we are approaching. Still a few months ago, but the Olympics are coming. So it's a major sport event, which also kind of fits very well with an entertainment proposition because the Olympics goes beyond sport, of course. So how do we get all of it together? And those rails are basically perfectly fitting for that purpose. And yeah. So I can tell you, like, for example, like you start watching the sport events, and then all of a sudden we got documentaries about athletes, they all fit very well in there. So we know that if you've been watching, again, a tennis event and there's a documentary about Agassi, you might want to be interested in that. So that goes into the rail for you, which wouldn't normally go. So yeah, all of these pieces of content go together, and it's a mix. I know that we might get there later on, but it's a mix between what is automatically pulled in because of the algorithm behind and what we believe we should be putting in. So it's kind of hard-coded.
Of that.
Exactly. That's the editorial curated part of it, because the algorithm can get very far, but there's always that kind of human element, because we know better our base. We know what's going on in each market. Imagine like all of a sudden there's a big press release about someone, so we want to put that one there.
Yeah. And the algorithm couldn't have picked that up yet. There's also the cold start problematic. Exactly. I mean, if you don't have the data because things are happening here and now, then you cannot wait for the algorithm to pick up that.
I can give you an example. I can give you a very good example. I don't remember the name of the document of the show, but a few months ago there was the Johnny Depp trial. I don't know if you remember that. And that was kind of that. So there was Johnny Depp against his wife. They were divorcing. It was a big thing, and we were kind of broadcasting that. That type of show wasn't really interesting for many people because it's a kind of gossip, but the buzz around it was so big. A lot of times we say, okay, this needs to go top of the radar because people will want to watch. Even if you don't normally watch this type of content, all of a sudden this is big in the US, was huge, you can imagine. So it was kind of, again, top. That was a curated part of what we discussed.
That makes sense. Okay. Because in the book we read, and I think many of the listeners here will also be maybe some of them retailers, omnichannel retailers. You like to think of content feeds as product feeds, and many companies, when they send out an email, it just has one block or one rail, as you call it, one group, and then just least irrelevant products for you. And then there's really not much more relevance necessarily put into that. I think that's the poor example of it. And then some of them also have maybe another rail or a group or content block, which has then, news articles or how-to articles or do-it-yourself articles. And if they're really good, then they also have one which is with user-generated content. But I think with you and with Warner Bros. Discovery, you basically have very much the the same type of content, which would happen to be, stuff that can entertain you. But then the subcategories within those are almost infinite, sports and series and movies and all the subcategories within that. But coming back to that, I think obviously if you go into the HBO app, you will see a lot of the rows. And can you tell a bit about how you do the headlines? Because it's like I sometimes compare this going into a supermarket. And if I look at, and if I'm in a supermarket where I don't normally shop, it takes forever because the shelves are all in the wrong position. The rails are not as I normally have them in my local supermarket. So what I look for when I go into a new supermarket, I look for the headlines. So the headline for the different shelves, so I can find the spaghetti, so I can find the milk, so I can find the whatever. So how do you work with headlines? Which headlines do you give them? Which are personal? Which are dynamic? Can you say a few words about that?
So I can tell, first of all of those headlines, like imagine there's a big testing behind them. So because you don't really know from the get-go, is it like, I give you a very simple example. Is that for you? Or is it that because you watch this? Or is it that tailored for you? Like there are different kind of ways to present that. So we do a lot of testing there. And that's the first bit. Another thing that might be a bit controversial here is we all know that I give you the supermarket example. You get there. If I show you at the very beginning all of the products that you would normally buy, or if we go back to HBO, all of the shows that you most likely are going to watch, then I lose that kind of exploration element because I also want you to find out new things that are on the web that you wouldn't normally end up there. So sometimes, I tell you, people might have experienced that continue watching or like my list things or that they are more down in your scroll. And at the beginning, you might be seeing shows that I never watched this kind of things. That's made on purpose because we want you to kind of put in front of you some things that you wouldn't normally do. And you got to find the balance because you don't want to annoy people because at some point you say, hey, I'm getting there because I just want to keep watching that show that I was watching yesterday. I don't want to scroll 3 times.
Putting the milk in the back of the store.
Exactly. But for the supermarket, imagine the goal of a supermarket is to let you go all around. So then you will start buying products that you wouldn't normally buy or that you don't normally need, of course. So it's kind of finding that balance. And that's all about testing, to be fair. That's the machine learning helps you understanding what is the best position for the For You trade.
It's also a matter of actually personalizing that approach per individual, because as I see it, and at least within retail, you would have the easy. So if you want to do a win back, if you want people to re-engage, if you have a frequency problem, then you'd want to tease people with what they already had or what they had when they were engaged. Whereas if you are already have a sound and a good frequency and maybe no immediate danger of retention and engagement dropping, then you would try and do this cross-sell into to other categories. Yeah, changed the room.
Sorry for that.
We were talking about supermarkets, actually.
Yes.
Talking about when is the right time to, I mean, you, of course you can test. Would it be better to show people what they already have or what they normally have on top in the app or on the website? Or would it be better to tease them with something else that could maybe broaden their scope and so on? And we were discussing whether this could actually be a personalized approach where if you already had a sound frequency, you would maybe then try and tease people with something else they didn't normally have. But if you were really struggling to get people to engage, then you would reach out and try and get them to engage with something they normally did or you already knew had an interest with them.
And it's about always finding that balance. And it's about testing. It's about kind of exploring and try to understand what is the best possible mix that you're going to put in place. Takes time. We are getting there.
Yeah. And are you working with, are you changing the order of the rows dynamically or the order of the rails on an individual basis?
That we are, of course we are. And I would say even within the same rail, you and I are not going to see the same titles.
Different titles.
So you're going to, so the most relevant for you might be different for me. So even if we have similar interests, so we might be interested again in action movies. Your history is different than mine. So within that same genre, we're going to, so automatically that's all done by the algorithm, of course. Unless sometimes we tweak it, as I was saying before, we might want to put something on top because it's the show of the moment. People are talking in a specific market.
The bell's ringing here in Malaga.
Yeah, sorry for it's okay. It is what it is.
Past 10 here. So,
but yeah, it is different. It varies, and it all led by the algorithm behind it, of course.
So you're actually personalizing the content feeds on 2 levels. That's what I hear. So you're doing it both on the rail level and which rails should show to whom, but also on a content item level.
Correct.
So you and I would see different action movies in the action movie rail. How would the how would they differ? How would you decide between the two, or how would you? What drives the most value? Getting the headlines straight or getting the order straight?
I would say the headlines straight. I would really say that, because that's where, I mean, it's the initial piece. Once I got to, okay, this is the rail that I want to look at, people easily kind of keep scrolling towards right. It's easier to get them to do that once they realize, okay, in this rail, there's a lot of things that I might want to watch, that might be interesting. So it's easier. You still want to put some orders there, but I think that is the most powerful piece. So to kind of have the headline right, and have kind of, okay, I'm here, this is what I want to watch. This is where I'm going to find something that I want to watch and go on.
So if you as a consumer buy into the headline and say, yeah, this is the right rail for me.
Correct. That is
okay
correct.
with scrolling. Yeah.
That is correct. Yeah.
If I can find the right shelf where I know they have pesto, then I'm okay with.
Then you're going to look at all of the different types of pesto that you might going to like, but you're going to get pesto for sure.
Find the perfect milk or whatever. Okay,
are you
great.
Still
I'm still here. By the way, if the image is a bit blurry, don't worry, because everything is.
I got. Okay, all good. All
right. What's elaborating a bit further on this? What's the value of a good headline? So I assume that you are doing maybe A/B testing on the best headline for a specific rail. What is the value for getting the headline right, or getting it wrong, so to speak?
You can easily lose that type of engagement. So if you imagine, like, sometimes it's also related to how you want to propose yourself to customers. Imagine, like, if someone tells you this is what you should watch, as a different sound that we curated a series of movies for you for your Friday night. Yes,
so more direct.
You really has a difference. Exactly. So there's an element of that you kind of gotta decide what your product stands for, what your personalization stands for. Is it kind of indicating people, okay, look, I know that you're gonna like this, or it's more kind of your friend that suggests, hey, you should watch that movie. It's very good. Or like it's imagine also the time of the week when you log in. So imagine, like, you log in on a Friday night, and the tone, the headline there is going to be different than when you show the Monday night, because it's different. So maybe Friday night movies, popcorn moment, whatever it is, while on the Monday night, it's kind of, you might want to say, laid back, just watch it.
Yeah.
So it really changes that. And if you don't get it right, you're not going to get the customer attention that you wanted, and people will just going to skip through it. So there is a value. I cannot tell you like the exact uplifting percentage of engagement, but there is a different uplift based on how you pick your headlines, and that's why you gotta keep A/B testing and see.
I saw someone from the audiobook company Storytel, so a guy who used to work there. He said that they were testing because you $X, so very personalized one. Then they would show the rail of recommended books versus popular right now, or
exactly.
And there was like a 30% difference in uplift between the two. I think that's quite saying. But obviously, if I navigate a supermarket and the shelves don't mean anything to me, I'm also lost.
You're just gonna skip through it. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Well, imagine I give you another example of kind of the level of personalization you want to do. Imagine a new subscriber that's been there for, like, let's say, a week. So a For You tray is not going to be very relevant, because I only watched maybe one show. So what are you going to recommend me? So that's where it's completely, the tone of voice is going to be different, because in that case is the must see on our website, because you just got there. So I want to show you, like, okay, these are the shows that you should watch. So it really changes also based on who I'm talking to. So that same headline might be very different between someone that's been there for 2 years and someone that's been there for two weeks. So it's the level of personalization goes deeper and deeper and deeper, of course, until it should get to a one-to-one level.
Exactly as it would in real life. I mean, once we get to know each other, then we have a better history and a better,
of course,
better odds at actually making a recommendation that is sound. So maybe changing it from being a bit more implicit when you don't know people that well and being more and more explicit. So say, Pierre, this is, wow, you cannot miss this. This is exactly for you.
Correct. Absolutely.
That's a very interesting principle. Because in the book, we're also discussing, implicit versus explicit. Normally say that if you have a lot of data that you don't necessarily can relate directly to this particular person, either because you bought it somewhere else, it's third-party data then you cannot be, it's probabilistic data, so you cannot be very explicit in that. And then, so it's more implicit, so you just suggest things almost by coincidence. And then over time, as you get wise and you get to know people better, you can be more and more explicit.
That's correct. That is correct. And it goes, as you said, eventually from real life, you can get very good example of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So we're drawing towards an end here. So what's your best tip to anyone working with a lot of content and content when it comes to personalization?
I would say a couple of things. Test as much as you can, because what we've just been discussing, like there's no got a golden bullet. You gotta try and test and see whatever is gonna work for you. And I think that sharing data and information with different departments is key. Like I've seen the value of working very closely with the merchandising team, also with the acquisition team. It might sound like counterintuitive, but the acquisition team know very well where subscribers are coming from and what was the message that got them to buy a subscription, or if we're talking about an e-commerce, to get on the website, create an account. And that's the first level of personalization that you can get. You can already show them or talk to them in the right way. So I would say that it's super important to share information with different departments. Don't work in isolation. The retention team, there's only that much that we can do. You need to it needs to be an holistic effort in the company. So it's our role to because I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little bit long on that, but eventually the churn or engagement. So the churn KPI eventually is the retention KPI, but you need to sell it to everyone in the company, because eventually it's the lifetime value of customers is the health of the company. So working with different teams and making sure that everybody buys in and we share the right information is super important, I would say.
And the final question of our little talk here, which I've really, really enjoyed, Pierre, I must say. It's been a pleasure.
I'm sorry for technical things.
No worries.
It is what it is.
The practicalities of this particular episode is maybe slightly different than the other episodes. Here I am in a rooftop in Malaga, and clearly there's something going on in your end as well. But your own favorite personalization example that you've experienced as a customer? That's the question I always ask.
I don't have a favorite one. I just have one that really came to me very recently, and I was kind of mind blown by it. So, as you said at the beginning, I became a father very recently, and with that came a whole new type of problems in my life. And one of those is I need to look for a nanny, because we both work, so we need a nanny in a few months. We're gonna need a nanny. So, and that is, it might sound very simple. It might sound like, you go to the park, you speak to nannies, and maybe you're gonna find one. It's not the case. So there are websites that are there's a war behind that. And so I'm dealing with this war right now. And there's this specific website in Italy where I don't want to give advertising, whatever. I'm not going to mention the name, but it's one of the biggest ones. And really, I was mind blown by the level of personalization that they got to. The message is very clear. When you create an account, it's like, you're giving to this, you're looking for someone that's going to take care of the most precious things that you have. Yeah. So you really want to nail it. So in order to nail it, give us few information, and we're going to get to a point where we can recommend you the best possible person for you. Yeah. And the trade-off there was, give us some time, some additional time. So answer a few questions, fill up your profile in the proper way. And then we're gonna save you a lot of time and headaches in looking for someone, because we're gonna get you 3 candidates and you're gonna love all of them. And that's been the case. So my wife is non-Italian, so we need kind of an English-speaking person. I live in Italy, and that's the first thing. The area where we live, our specific requirements in terms of timing, because we work with the British, is it very narrows that thing. And we got to the point that was like, oh my God, you just recommend me the best possible person. And
That's amazing.
because I did spend some time filling up that profile while my wife did not, I could see the different experience that we had on the website. The same website, I had 3 candidates that were perfect. She had a bunch of people that were not at all what we're looking for. So yeah, I think it's, I loved it, and it saved a lot of time. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also, I think, a point worth maybe taking out from that was the discussion about zero-party data and first-party data.
Absolutely.
That, I mean, to begin with, in a customer relationship, you may not have the option to have maybe any kind of first-party data. So if you can ask the customer to fill in their zero-party data and borrow that for a little while, that can also be a way of sort of getting the off on the right foot.
And that's that way, or you can start gathering as many information as possible in the first few weeks of a customer subscribers engagement with the website. And that is crucial. So gathering those information is super important. What I was going to say before, how did this person came initially to the website? What is he doing the first few weeks? What are their interests? And then you can really get to personalized experience that helps them and that helps you.
A discussion about implicit and explicit personalization. When you have the zero-party data that you've just been told, and therefore it must be correct. It's not something that you're assuming. You can also you can be very direct, saying, Pierre, we have this nanny for you because you said this. We give you this because you said this. We give you this, and it will not even be creepy or anything. It'll feel like a normal conversation. So I think that that's the ending note from here. So Pierre, it's been a huge pleasure, and I feel like we could go on discussing this for even much longer, but that will have to wait for another day. So again, thank you for joining, and I hope we get
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It's been super nice.
Thank you so.
Hopefully soon, man. Hopefully soon. I hope this was interesting for the listeners. Talk to you soon, man. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
You too.
Thank you for listening in on this episode of Hello FirstName. Remember that all models and even a written abstract of the book are available for download. You'll find the link in the show notes.
Due to the slight mix-up of the episode schedule, our next episode of the podcast will also be a more classical podcast style. We'll be discussing Chapter 13, Personalization on Inbound Platforms, with a true veteran within on-site personalization, who just also happens to be an author within the field. Hence, we're welcoming Lars Birkholm-Petersen to the show. Lars was a vital part of the DXP CMS side course personalization journey for almost a decade, and was VP of Business Optimization before he went on to found the agency Editorial and then the composable CMS product Uniform in San Francisco.